There we
are
are.
live, I think.
Yes, we are. We should be live. If you press the button, we are live.
The button.
That's how it
Oh, we are
works.
live. Yeah. Our stream
We
health
are
is
live.
green. All right.
Nice. Alright. So, what's up? What's new? Tell me.
Well,
How are you doing?
doing all right. I am running on 3 hours of sleep. Still.
Why is that?
It was Canadian Thanksgiving, and I went home to the States because I had a long break, and I like to leave at night because the traffic isn't absolute ass. But I was like, oh, I'm going to leave at 8 by the latest because I have class in the morning. And then I ended up leaving at like 10:30. So, good job.
So you arrived when?
I arrived at like 3, and then I wasn't able to fall asleep until 4, but I had to get up at I had to get up at like 7:30. So I guess.
Well, see, here's the thing. Yeah, here's the thing. This always happens to me, and I think it has something to do with either like excitement or stress or I don't know. But basically, whenever I need to like do something that's cool and I like it, such as being at home in the States for you in this case, and then like you have to go to sleep, like or like do something not fun and then go to sleep because you gotta go somewhere like abruptly.
Yeah.
I no matter how I try, I always like go for the fucking college rule and just like refuse to sleep.
I think
just last week I was doing like 1 hour, like not even an hour, like 25 minutes of sleep.
Oh god. I think
that was
the
fun.
big thing that happened, aside from the fact that it was just, a long drive over an international border, like I somehow got it into my head the whole drive that one of my tires like just completely blew up and I just couldn't tell. So like the whole time I kept like pausing my music to check and like taking my hands off the wheel to make sure I wasn't gonna like swerve off the road or like turn sharply one way or the other.
I remember you totally said something like that. Yeah. You were paranoid.
Well, Trish thinks I might have anxiety.
You?
Yeah.
Or Trish? Okay. Well, you do have anxiety. It's just like normally it's all fine. Well, I finished another painting, and now what do I have? I finally got paid and finished another commission. Now I have 2 possible commissions to go for. A personal piece to finish that I'm making a video of, and then another piece that I'm streaming on Twitch. And holy shit, since when do I have so many things going at the same time?
Isn't it? Ain't that just
I'll tell you, since my friend died. I don't know. It kind of made me feel really like, oh shit, can't slack off anymore. Plus, remember I've always told, like, I got into my head the idea that you get, like, you get 4 years. 4 years is what it takes to go from, like, 0 starting to, like, pro level of scale in painting, or, like, art. So, I always kind of thought, like, the moment it hits October 2016, I'm gonna become pro. Or if I don't, I will hang myself.
Well,
you see?
I'm your deadline's like.
What?
Your deadline's here, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's my specific thing. Remember how I always talked about how like it's easy for us to do art because we don't have that. Well, it's comfy now, and if I fail, I'll just go back to doing whatever I'm doing. Like like we don't have that. We have like we either succeed or die. Like, and it sounds dark, and your family will never understand what that means, right? They will think.
Yeah.
Every family will always do the whole like, well, you know, we're here for you if you need it, like thing, and
Yeah,
it's actually detrimental.
Or it's always
I
like,
think.
do you have a backup plan? And like, you have to get it into
The amount
partly into your head, but like especially into your family's head. Like, you don't get it. This is it. There is no backup plan.
Yeah, because I think, well, I'm sure there are many ways to think about it, but my reasoning is that it just takes so much commitment, such a huge amount of commitment, that there is not enough commitment to go around for you to have a backup plan or something.
I'm not a hobbyist. Like,
yeah, like, which is like the whole idea. But unfortunately, parents or just like families don't understand how that shit works. So most often than not, they'll like think like, oh boy, he's gonna devote all of himself, and then what if he fails? He'll just drink himself to death. That's what my dad always used to say. Well, I don't know. In my case, that's what my dad always used to say. Like, just you watch, man. All artists end up drinking and just being unhappy because they're like failed artists, and
every single one.
Well, like he would say like 1 out of 10 succeeds, and the 9 like end up like being depressed, unsuccessful, unhappy, and like just drinking all the time. Alcoholic artists complaining about life, how they should be successful, but nobody understands them. Which like. Oh my god. Never mind. Which I kind of get, because in Dad's case, he knows a lot of artists, but he doesn't know a lot of professional artists. Well, he does some, but he doesn't see the difference between professionals and people who want to be professionals. He doesn't see the difference in ethic, the difference in like what they are trying to achieve. So most of the artists, to him, they appear like they're just not talented enough, which goes in the whole like talent given, God-given like ability, blah blah blah, right? So he just thinks like everybody tries and some succeeds and most fail, right? When in reality, they're just like artists who don't get it and fail. Like they'll like just miss something fundamentally important to being like.
Well, and then there's also a huge subset of people who just don't get how much persistence you need.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who just expect to have success the first time they put themselves out there. And then they'll get,
every single time. Yeah, every single time.
One rejection, and they'll get one rejection or one critique and blow the fuck up. And there's a fucking swarm of them.
Well, swarm is like an understatement. Yeah. Every time we see like a post that goes like, "This is my first painting or photo or like a writing thing. This is my
first short story."
Yeah.
Oh god, the big one, the one that still sticks with me, is this dude who apparently had been working on this book for like a year and a half. And then someone was like, they're just like the general stuff, like you need to work on letting your characters take you wherever and all that junk. And they were like, you also have a lot of grammar issues and general writing clutter. You should really, because the dude was wanting to send it out to like a professional editor and pay them to edit, like proofread his work. And the person was like, you should really work on self-editing your stuff more before you sink money into paying someone else to do it for you. And the dude just lost his shit.
What was his reaction?
He was like, I've been working on this for so long and everyone says it's great, but I guess they're wrong and I'm just gonna give up now. Like,
wow,
fine, get out. Like, if that's all it takes, you don't fucking have what you need. Like, go find somewhere where you'll be happier.
Well, who's the best like example of this kind of shit? I think like Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay is like perfect, because like you get all these people who refuse to see criticism, or like they avoid it subconsciously, like that whole like everybody says it's great. Well, people in real life, not on the internet is different, but in real life, or like small scale internet where it's closer to real life, everybody like either says something nice or they don't say anything at all. Remember that thing? Like,
well,
what's the saying? Like, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all. It's terrible for like artists.
Yeah, most of your friends and family, if you're gonna use them as beta readers, you need to make sure they're gonna be at least a little bit honest with you.
Yeah. Like
they can still be nice, but they need to. You can be nice and still point out problems, and if someone's just being nice and that's it, they're not doing anything for you. And likewise, if someone asks you for help, sure, you should be nice, but you need to. They've come to you for help. You need to be willing to tell them where they need work. Otherwise, you're wasting both of your time.
Mm-hmm. I also have this like suggestion for myself, I guess, and for others, but sometimes it's hard to like get critique after you finish whatever you're doing and apply that critique. It takes like a lot of discipline or distance from work, you know.
Yeah.
So if you can't do that, if you're like too emotional or something, just like, you know, take the critique, don't change anything in the thing you have, and try and think about it just subconsciously, like have it in your head next time you do anything else, because the problems are not going to go away. You know, they're going to like kind of come back to you in different ways. So like just listen to critique even if you're not going to do something about the piece you're working on or the story you're writing. It's just going to help later too. So listening for feedback is always great, even if you're like, you can't do anything about whatever you did for whatever reason.
On another note, remember that magazine I sent that story about the duck to, and it took them forever, and they never replied, even when I queried them? Well, I just went on their website again to like just see what the fuck is up. Their website has not changed in a long time. Their latest issue, their latest issue was spring 2015.
Well, that explains a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They're kind of...
I would guess that they are not in business anymore. Or at the very least, they're on a long hiatus.
Well, I mean, I guess it hasn't been more than a year, but still, that's quite a lot for someone to, like, you know...
It has been a little bit over a year now.
Well, I mean, it's just like, the website should be down by now.
Yeah.
You know?
It depends on...
If they're out of business.
It depends on how many... Depends on how many years they paid for in advance for their hosting.
Oh, well, that would be funny. If that's the case, yeah. I think before going into art, to go back to the subject, and like people who are like not prepared, well, no one's really prepared, right? It's more like you have to be willing to learn along the way, no matter how difficult it is, how hard it is to accept something.
And it's okay to you might feel a little bit like upset at first, but you need to be willing to reflect on that later and dig out the stuff that you need to.
Yeah.
Like, it's normal to have that little knee-jerk reaction, but you can't let that push you over into a meltdown, you know?
You know, when I see that, like that reaction you just mentioned, well, it could be what you said. It could be what you mentioned is that he, like, couldn't handle it. But that also sounds like he always thought about it. Like, and nobody had the courage to say it, but he always had it in his head. And the moment it happened, it wasn't like, you know, like, just the first time he hears it. It's like he constantly had that in his head. So it's not the first one. It literally was, like, you know, like the little piece of straw that broke the camel's back. Except most of the things were in his head, and that one straw is what you see.
The
in
other
that
thing
one.
it could have been is he could have had that syndrome a lot of people have where they're genuinely like a little bit talented, and they get compliments from that when they're first starting out, and then they go out into like the actual community and they're expecting more compliments. Like they don't want a critique, they just want praise.
Well, yeah, you can easily get into the habit of like wanting attention and good feedback, and be like, like having reassurance that you're the hot shit.
Especially if
And
that's what you've been getting when you're first starting out.
This is a problem that I've heard about a lot, like from my dad too. In his case, it wasn't art. He was like he was into sciences, like physics and math. And you see, he grew up in like a shitty village, basically, where most people were like extremely either just stupid or like uneducated. So he literally was like, no like exaggeration, the smartest person in the town. Like, well, especially for his age, like as a young kid, right? So he was like extremely over over educated at that point for his surroundings. So he was sent to the capital city to study in like a science academia.
Yeah.
And like go to like college thing, and that's when he learned that, oh shit, I was living in like a butthole of the universe. Now I can actually see that there are way more people like that are like me and better than me, and I'm like feeling not so hot right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's happening the same way now with people, except instead of like going to like some other place, you go online and see like the bigger world. Because with art, a lot of art is like, it's kind of global. Yeah. Like no one cares about like what writers you have in your town, right? Everybody cares about the writers in your country, or even like across the globe. No one like cares about like, well, this town has these writers. This is our like hangout or something. You will always have like one guy in the whole city that you might respect, unless you're in like a big city like Chicago or something. You might have multiple. Yeah. But normally, like people are all spread across the globe. You won't find like many in small places. Yeah, so it's always isolating, and in your surroundings, you always end up feeling like you're the fucking god. You're talented. You're the best. Of course, everybody tells you that you're amazing because you're doing what nobody else can, because the scale of everybody's perception is so tiny. But then when you get into the big league, the league where it matters, immediately you recognize you're just a little fly. Can't do shit.
Yep.
Which is kind of Lovecraftian. So what's the story you've been anxiously wanting to tell me?
I've been anxiously wanting to tell you a story? Are you talking about the grocery store thing?
Of course.
Like 2 seconds to tell?
Yes.
So on the way home, I stopped at the little local grocery store near where I live and just grabbed like a drink and some bread. And I'm waiting in line, and this little lady just walks in holding 4 pears, and I step aside to let her get in the line behind me, and then she steps in front of me. So in my head, I'm like, "You stupid cunt, you motherfucking bitch!" And the whole time, and then like the line clears up, and I'm sitting there waiting for her to go, and then she just looks at me, and like doesn't say anything, and I'm looking at her, and it was for like 2 whole seconds, which isn't that long, but when you're in the moment, that's like an eternity. And then I'm like, oh, she's waiting for me to go. That was it.
I just want to say, I don't think I've ever heard you so, like, at least sounding so genuinely, like, mad upset. Every time you pretend to be angry, you over-exaggerate it. So, like, you scream and you shout and you're like, I'm mad! You're like, yeah, you're mad. But this was not like that. You just, like, the voice goes down, like, tense. intensity goes up. They're like, fucking cunt, fucking bitch, I'm gonna rip your head open. I'm gonna stuff my penis into your open like aorta and just like pump it full of semen. Like, it's just like, what the fuck? Where did that come from? I guess you really were full of hate for that lady.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, if, you know, we both know customer service, so hatred for fellow man or woman is
Yeah, it's been
not unknown
cultivated
to
pretty
us.
strongly.
I like to think that customer service is great, but not, like, it won't make you hate people, but, well, it will if you're an idiot. But more so, it will teach you that you think people are great, but
Mhm.
look at all these motherfuckers that you never knew existed. I just cannot comprehend how is it that life is constructed in this way, that a lot of us just go, like, just, you know, we go through our lives not knowing that 2 steps away from us there will be a completely insane, stupid idiot, like,
Yeah.
who's like possibly full of drugs and hate, and you will never know about that, and except when you somehow, like, you know, meet them. And customer service is the best place for that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if I never worked my job, I would have never known that there are like crazy motherfuckers out there who will genuinely get ridiculously mad at you if you like overcharge them 50 cents or something. Like, you're like, what? That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they will like demand managers, but I mean, in most cases, you know, like, it's not exactly that they're like crazy. They're just like trying to cheap their way out of it because they're poor, and
Yeah.
you know.
Or the other thing is, the other subset of people, I guess, are the ones who have something else dumb going on in their lives, and they're looking for an outlet, and then they see the minimum wage service employee, who is the perfect target to take out all their vitriol on.
See, as a person who hates myself, mm-hmm. I don't understand how that works. Like, you have to be really not self-aware for that or something. I got no clue. What do you think?
What?
Like, I just cannot do that. I don't know how to unleash myself, like, on others.
I don't know
if they're
either.
Not.
Well, especially not now after being in this job. I'm peeking the mic. I'm going to turn myself down a little bit. Especially not after being in this job, like, for this long. Like, I can't do that to someone else, you know?
Yeah, well, I go to Wendy's. Right? And I order something, and they fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, you know, what am I gonna fucking do? Like, just ruin your day? Yeah. And I completely do not care about this fuck up, you know? Like, it's not like, oh, well, this is a fuck up, and normally I wouldn't care, but someone asked me for this, so I have to change it. Like, you know, it's not even that.
If it really completely bothers me, I'll go up and politely tell them about the error. But, like...
They're like, hey, sorry, guys, I asked this. Like, it's no biggie, just could you, like, change it or something?
Yeah,
you know? Like, I'm not...
Hey, it's been a while since I ordered, and I haven't gotten my food yet. Just wanted to check. And then...
Yeah, like, and shit does happen, so, you know, it's all cool. And then, like, I order something, right? I order for, like, chicken nuggets, right? And I want them spicy. They forgot to make them spicy. I don't care. Like, I'm just gonna get them, and I am fine. They're busy as fuck. They probably hate their life. Like, I know that shit, you know?
Yeah.
Like, maybe they're, like, one day away from hanging themselves. Like, I am not gonna, like, bother them. Especially not gonna bother them, like listen here. Like, you know? So I just go away. Like, I walk away. And I'm, like, all cool. And then the next person comes in. It's an old white guy. And he's like, I asked for a double cheeseburger. You call this a double cheeseburger? And I'm like, dude, I know you're old, so you think, like, you know, whatever. I don't know. old white people who are angry all the fucking time thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they're like start being like extremely mean, and I just don't understand. Like, what is this? Like, what is this? Do you think you're like Prince, like
Mm-hmm.
Charming, and you're like dealing with serfs or something? Like,
I remember way back when I was still in middle school, I think, but we were grocery shopping at Fred Meyer, and like this middle-aged lady and her little kid. I don't think she was even going to this section of the store, but she like walked by the deli, saw their like the where they keep the hot food that's just like cheap and there for people to eat who are in a hurry.
mm-hmm.
In the grocery store, she saw that stuff, and then just flipped her shit. And then she stormed out. Yeah, she was like, "This food is dry. Do you guys eat this shit?" And then like the people who worked there were like, "Yeah." And then like she just abandoned her cart with all her shit in there, and her son was like, "Shouldn't we be taking this?" And she's like, "No, we're leaving." So that's another story.
I feel bad for see, that's the thing. I feel bad for the kids because I know so many situations when you have that kind of thing. Like you have a parent who flips and makes a scene or just like behaves the way that even the kid like feels it. Like
yeah, the
they
kid
might not
knows
necessarily
that's not right.
The kid feels like this is not okay, Yeah, that's another thing I really don't understand. Like people who like there are people that I feel like they're like a fish out of water, except it's very bizarre to imagine how they would live their lives, Like they come into a pizza place and they order something stupid and then they pretend like this is a 5-star restaurant. Like, oh, this is terrible. Like, I mean, let us check it out, right? Maybe it was fucked up, and then you look and like, no, it's regular. And like, this is. I mean, I'm sorry, but this is just as. This is the limit of this place. I mean, this is pretty much almost a fast food place. What do you fucking expect? Like, like that's the thing. I see people going to fast food places and complaining about burgers not being like fresh or something. Like, are you dense? Like,
pick one.
Yeah.
Like, do you want it really fast, or do you want it to take a little bit longer and be really fresh?
Like, I can't imagine, right, that there is a person who lived, like, their whole life sheltered to buy, like, like, always went to 5-star restaurants, his food is always paid for them. They have, like, zero idea what real life is like, right? And then, like, once they're, like, on their own, and they're like, I'm hungry. My butler is not around. Like, they're late to pick me up in my limo. What should I do? I've heard about this place called McDonald's, like, and they go there, like, but that's like such a rare thing. It can't happen all the time. Yet I see it way more often than I imagine. So like, it's almost as if people want an excuse to be mad. But that can't possibly be true, can it? Anyway, I had a thought. I wanted to share it with you, and I was wondering what you thought about it, and if you had any contribution. In the way that an artist develops, I feel like there are different, like let's just use video game terminology. There are different skill trees that artists put their like points into, and there's like there's the knowledge seeking, there's the diligent practice, and there's the experimentation, like the personal discovery. Like, if I just split it into these three, right? Which one would you think would you be? I think you would be the personal growth experimentation type. Like, I never really see you go out your way to, like, study something, like, on a technical level, and I never see you like do something mechanical to practice really that much. Like, and it's even better seen with your music, because when you write as a composer, you give no shits.
Oh yeah, I
to
don't give a shit.
well, you know what I mean. Like you generally just kind of like try to make a good thing, but you try to make it good on your own. You just go out and try things and see if they work. If they're not, you see if you can fix them or if you can make something else that's better. But I never see you like study other composers or like read books about composition, something like, or like just do compositional exercises. Like that's the thing I never see you do. And I bring this up because I have a thing, and I like this a lot, and I do it all the time, and I started realizing it. I thrive on discovering some kind of technique or some kind of just like approach that an artist has that's not me, and I like it. And then I immediately like become like so like interested into it. I become like in my head, I become some kind of Indiana Jones explorer kind of type of dude, like with a hat and everything. And I go out of my way to get as close as possible to the source to learn how they do it. Like in the case with Chris, it went as far as becoming one of his great friends, like to learn how he does it, right? But I will pay money. I will watch the streams like late at night. I will go to like websites that are in like Korean and use Google Translate to navigate around to understand what's happening, you know. And I enjoy it. I love it a lot. I like analyzing this shit and trying to understand things that I never understand, you know. Like, do you do any of that? Is that something that's familiar to you? Like a extreme search for knowledge, like some kind of safari hunting.
I've always been a lot more passive with my learning.
Yeah, see, neither of us are. Yeah, like I feel like the third one, the one that I mentioned, that's kind of harder to explain. I complain them to the gym rats kind of dude bros.
Yeah.
Like I can, like they're like artists that are all about the technique or like the technical aspect of it, and they will not necessarily seek acknowledge as much as they will look at it as like a gym thing. When it's all about the discipline and just persistence, which is good and you should do it, but like that's their main like
well, and if you
focus.
Do that all the time, like literally all the fucking time, the chances are pretty high you'll get burnt out quickly.
Yeah. Well, these are the people who will do whatever they do and put like hashtag no rest days, you know, on their thing. And most often than not. And it always kind of sounds like they're talking about going to the gym because it's all about like yeah, it's hard, but you gotta force yourself, bruh. like this is what it's all about. You know, like, and I mean, I appreciate it. It's great, but when it's so much that it's kind of comical.
Yeah. All right, Anton.
But then, like,
here's a question before
in my
I continue.
case,
do I do a really bad thing and drink my leftover Rockstar?
Yes.
Okay.
For the benefit of everybody, you should do it.
All right, I'll be right back.
All right. Now, while he's away, I'll reveal a secret. Recently, Ben here, he wrote a jingle for us, I guess. I don't know how to explain it. And I will force him to perform it at the end of this.
The only way this is okay is the fact that I don't have class until 3 tomorrow, and I don't really have to do anything until about 1 p.m., so...
Well, what specific is okay? The singing?
Having the Rockstar.
Oh, okay. Oh, I guess that will keep you up.
Maybe.
You see, I didn't even think about the consequences. I was just like, yeah, let's do... Yes.
Maybe all of a sudden I'll become one of those people who has the opposite reaction to caffeine that you're supposed to have, and it'll make me sleepy.
By the way, while we're on this tangent, is it possible for you to be angry when you don't get your caffeine?
Oh, yeah.
I know
after you develop caffeine addiction, yeah, it'll act like any other.
Alright, so, quick tangent. Last day at work, Sunday. I mean, I had four days of work, and I don't know works for me, but I never had like more days but less hours. So I'm more used to like longer days but still less days I have to do shit, and I just write those days out of my life, you know. So, but this week surprisingly became like more days but less hours. So, but like I just gotta go there almost like every other day. So it was like fourth or fifth day for me for this specific week, and for some reason I didn't really sleep much, but I slept enough. And I always get an iced coffee in the morning before work. I didn't. I wasn't like, and this is my only suspicion. Maybe because I've had too much days of work for the week, you know, or maybe because of the coffee. That's my suspicion. Maybe because my girlfriend is not in town for like 2.5 weeks by now, and I'm fucking mad at this. But dude, I don't know. I almost stabbed a guy twice, like today. I mean, not today, that day. Like I was at the point when the guy was walking up to me, and I was like, I exploded in emotion. That was like bringing the. I had like a knife in my hand, and I almost like slammed it into the fucking table, like breaking it in half. But I like swung out of the table direction so it wouldn't happen. But I actually almost did it. Like it was like explosive anger. I don't know, man. Like everything. Well, it's normal for everything to be out to get to me, which is why I normally don't care. But that day, I just, oh my god, I don't know. I was so not having it. Like,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's like a brilliant, brilliant panel from like a comic, Marvel comic, that where Doctor Doom is saying something like, "So be it. I've offered you all of my patience, and you took it all." And that's what I was. I was not having any shit. Like, if someone would walk up to me, like, I would just like explode in rage that day. And I never had that, so I'm just like, what the hell fuck was that? Anyway, to go back to the topic I was going at, the one that I was talking about, the people who like love knowledge, the bad example of that, I feel, are the people who like get all the books, become the whole like the snobbish, like the theorists, you know, the neckbeardy guys who like act like they're the hot shit only because they know things or think they know things. When in reality, you're supposed to be judged by your work, not by what you say and what you know as an artist. You know, you could have read all the fucking books on composition and color and everything, and unless your paintings do not show anything good, no one's gonna give a shit. But then they go and like, you know, and they critique and they leave feedback and act generally like an asshole who's like the hottest shit. And they're oblivious to it, but that's the bad part of it. In my case, I don't think I have that. I just have like this excitement over something that's rarely showing up for me, and I see it and I'm just like, I gotta know. And it becomes like a treasure hunt.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. And I also do your thing, like when you just like do your thing and experiment and try and see what happens.
Yeah, man. That's the
because best. Yeah, that's what we do. I don't know if it's the best. I think it can be bad too. I think the bad side of that is all of those. See,
yeah, if we have the best with this one caveat. You have to at least know a little bit what you're doing.
Yeah, the dark side of the gym rat are like the dude bros who are like super, like they can be technical but completely useless and have like this whole like, yeah, bro, like, you know, completely devoid of real life mentality. The bad side of what I said is like, you know, the snobbish, like know-it-alls. Yeah. And the bad side of the experimental focus on self-growth and, you know, just like what really is the thing that you want to do. The bad side of that is all of those like delusional artists that think they're hot shit and creative when in reality they're not good. They're just like doing exactly what they think is unique to them.
Yep.
You know, all of those artists that look at modern contemporary, like good and bad but successful examples of contemporary art, and they try to imitate it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think they're great, but they're like, this piece is deep. You know, I painted it with menstrual blood. It's a circle on a big canvas. Like, you know, like, I called it the penetration of the sky. Like, like something, like, super deep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but it just doesn't work. It's like nothing that's good in it, because they lack either skill or knowledge. You know. There we go. By the way, remind me, have you read On Comics?
Oh,
by
the Alan Moore one? On writing
No.
comics? Oh.
No. Well, have you?
I have it. I have not read it yet. The Alan Moore one. Now, what book are you thinking of?
Yes. I was thinking of that famous book about comics, and it's called Understanding Comics, and the author is Scott McCloud. And I bet you've seen panels from it or something.
Oh, probably.
You know, like, yeah, like, that book is actually very dense. Like, I read it in, like, sort of one go, but I need to go back and reread it again because it's too much to go through in one go. Like, way too much. Because it's like almost like an academic text in the form of a comic, because it's basically the analysis of the medium of comics. And sometimes it even fucks with you just to illustrate a point, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I think this is one of those... If you're into narrative, and if you're into narrative, not even, like, sequential art narrative, like, you don't have to be into comics. If you want to write, I think this is valuable. Like, you know, like, how reading Stephen King's own writing is helpful to me as an illustrator, even though I don't write at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, my work is zero text, but it's still helpful to me because it makes me think in a certain direction.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I never thought about this way before. Like, oh, this is interesting. And then you do think about it. You have it in your head subconsciously. You analyze this, and it becomes a tool. Same thing with this, and it's great. I highly recommend it. But it's very quotable. A lot of people take pages and panels out of it too, and repost it because, you know, it's just something you read. And Scott McCloud is great at talking about shit. Yeah. So, I recommend it. But don't try to read it in, like, one go, though. I mean, you can, but you need to take breaks because it's not like a story. It's super, like, heavy. Like, it just goes, like, breakneck pace into everything that you have to, like, think about to really understand the medium. So what I'm saying is you should check it out. I think you would really, like it.
I'll check it out, yeah.
I actually remember this. Remember Ralph, the Las Vegas comic store called...
yeah, the best man in the world, who owns alternate reality comics in Las Vegas. Everybody go there and give Ralph a bunch of love. He's the biggest sweetheart you will ever meet in your life.
Absolutely. He's just the best man. He's the best man ever.
Yeah, he's a wonderful, wonderful person, and he deserves all the good things.
Like, he's so great that sometimes, like, you have to wonder if he keeps, like, babies he rapes at night, because, like, a person cannot be that great, you know? Like, it's suspicious. Yeah, like, and usually the and here's the thing, he does have a big dark secret, and the big dark secret is his hair. He colors it sometimes in silly ways.
Yeah.
That's why he always wears a hat.
I like
That's his big dark secret.
Remember when he dyed his hair yellow and then did a blue Batman symbol on top?
Oh, yeah. Anyway,
cute.
So I remember seeing Understanding Comics, like, on the shelf in the entrance of Alternate Reality Comics. It's, like, very cool. And you know, the shop is nice too, so it's perfect.
And he has a couch where you can hang out and read, and sometimes he has donuts that you can have. Just giving him more plugs.
All right, you know, this is a topic now. What I like about Ralph, as a businessman, I mean, I don't know him like as a businessman, but as a businessman from like a perspective of someone who's like me, who just like is a customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
He loves what he does.
Definitely, yeah.
But it doesn't just mean that. It means that he goes out of his way because of his love, and because of his love, there is an understanding of how this works. Not a single like comic book shop owner that I can think of that I've seen would consider putting like a library style couch for you to chill and just read a comic in the store. You know?
Well,
because
the like, Oasis Comics had that too. They had that little bank of couches, and the store down in Vancouver, USA also has one. But like, I think bookstores and comic shops are like, I'll see them kind of frequently, but they're really the only places I think you'll really find a place where you can actually just chill and have a good time.
But that's because they understand that their place is not just a place you buy things at. They understand and want that to be the case, that their place is the place you want to go, man. Because, like, I wanted to go to comic book shop. Like, I wanted to go to Alternate Reality Comics all the time. Like, I never bought anything there because I just don't buy comics. Like, and when I do, I buy something very specific, right?
Yeah.
And I think I might have bought, like, one or two things there, and they're, like... But I'm not sure. I don't remember.
If you did, they were probably art books or a Vertigo thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just don't remember if I bought it there or not. But I always wanted to go there because it's so awesome. It's like it's a nice place. He created like a brilliant space. And I don't even want to say it's a place to chill, because that's too simple. It's a place that has a great atmosphere and it's pleasant to be in, no matter what you're trying to do. You know, like, and that's what amazes me.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's something that I would want to inspire myself to be. You know, there's the difference between like an office of someone who just works there and an office of someone who works there and loves being there and loves what they do.
Yeah.
Because then the office becomes like this museum of great things. And if you're like a client and you go inside and you just want to like they're like, so how can I help you? And you're like, well, first of all, give me like 10 minutes to just look around. Because, oh man, I just kind of love being here. And that's great. I love it. But going back to understanding comics, dude, you really should read it. It's like, I think it would really be pleasant for you.
I'll check it out. Yeah.
So, yeah. How far are we in the sesh?
In the sesh? 48
Can you tell?
minutes.
Nice. Alright, so what else have you been up to? Have you been writing anything new?
Not anything super new. I finally finished a story that kind of got put on the back burner forever ago because I don't know. Last year was kind of a shit show in terms of actually working what I want to do because I had some.
Well, because you had tons of work, right?
Well, kind of. And then when I didn't, like, I felt really out of place. I had some imposter syndrome stuff going on, and then that made me just kind of want to lump around when I had a free moment, you know? But I got over myself, and now I finished that story, and I'm gonna finish this other really massive story I've been working on. Well, I don't know if I can say really massive anymore. I don't know how big it is.
Is that what I think it is? Is it? Why are you not saying the name?
Oh, because it doesn't have a name yet.
Oh, so I don't know it yet.
No.
Yeah,
it's not the one I sent you. The one I sent you is called Gasp.
With the baby.
Yeah. That one's I sent that one out to Fantasy and Sci-Fi.
I really like that, man.
Their average
I don't know what it is.
Their average response time right now is 4 days, and they've had it for about 6 days now, which is a good sign. It means that the first readers didn't just toss it out. No, because they did the same thing with Psy. They held that one for a long time because what happens with the bigger magazines, at least, the ones that actually pay you a decent rate, they tend to have a first panel of readers, and they'll just check through and sift out the bullshit, and then anything that makes it past them gets sent up the ladder until you go up to like the actual main editors.
I have a question, if you don't mind. Is that knowledge? Where does that knowledge come from?
Oh, I read I forgot which magazine, but there's a magazine that has they keep a blog about their publishing process and like what the industry standards are and stuff. And there was another one that was really transparent about what happens when you submit a story. I forget which magazine that was because by now I've submitted to a ton. But yeah, so that's what I've got going on right now. I'm gonna finish.
Man, I just want to say one more time.
Yeah.
The Gap story. I really hope it gets published. Just because I like it a lot.
Well, it'll get published somewhere. What I'm hoping is that Fantasy and Sci-Fi buys it because they're my dragon I'm gonna slay. Remember? Well,
yeah.
Even though
I want them to publish it too. Is it though? Like, I don't know. You tell me. Is that like fantasy sci-fi enough?
I think so. They're not strictly fantasy and sci-fi. They're just more speculative fiction, and what I wrote is definitely under that umbrella.
Okay.
And I don't know if I could call it literary, quote unquote. I hate that term, but I don't know if I could call it literary fiction. But I mean, it's also close enough that I could try. But right now, one of the really big, quote unquote, literary fiction magazines, I sent a different story to. I sent Murmur to them, so we'll see.
Remind me, what is literary fiction?
The kinds of stuff academics like to call literature. Yeah. Which isn't necessarily bad. Like, there's a reason a lot of that stuff is generally considered great, but, like, I don't know, I just don't like this shutting yourself off from so many literary genres, but making exceptions for Poe and fucking Mary Shelley. Like, people get a pass if they're old, basically.
Yeah. Mary Shelley is pretty pulpy fantasy sci-fi when you think about it.
Yeah.
Like the Frankenstein.
And H.G. Wells is very, very pulpy, but he's still considered like a literary
I actually haven't read like War of the Worlds. Was it written like Count of Monte Cristo?
I haven't read Count of Monte Cristo yet, so I couldn't tell you.
Well, see, the thing is, I love Count of Monte Cristo, but the truth is, if Count of Monte Cristo was written today, it would be like 3 times smaller, like the story, because that book is massive. Because it has a lot of information that is not necessarily there for the story. It's more like, well, you see, before I tell you what happens, I'm gonna explain what this country was in this year, like, you know. And it has like the War and Peace kind of thing going. So I'm asking, like, did H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds have that, or was it straight up like, you know, like story just old?
I'd have to reread it, but a lot of the stuff he does has pretty modern sensibilities. Like I read The Invisible Man for the first time last year. The H.G. Wells Invisible Man, not the one by oh, son of a bitch, the other guy. There are two books called The Invisible Man, and both are classics, but for different reasons. The one by H.G. Wells is obviously because it's like a progenitor to sci-fi about a man turning himself invisible. The other one is The Invisible Man is a black man in segregated society. I also have that one, but I'm going to read that one later. Anyway, getting off on a tangent. A lot of his stuff did kind of pave the way for. It was ahead of its time, I should just say. Like, ended at that. Like he didn't add a bunch of like 5-syllable words just for the hell of it. He kept things pretty neat and trim.
That's pretty Hemingway, though.
Yeah, but H.G. Wells was 1800s.
Right. I forgot about that. Here's a question.
Yeah.
Do you think storytelling, like in the most raw form, to simply understand how storytelling works, you need to understand how telling a story just to someone, like if you're like sitting in front of like a dude, telling them a story is like the most raw and like perfect example
like the
of
oral
what would be
tradition?
good storytelling. Somewhat.
Kind of. The thing that's kind of hard for a lot of people to wrap their head around is there can be a difference between being a good storyteller and being a good writer. And
I can see that.
A lot of times you'll have both, but a lot of times storytelling, if you're going to be a really truly good storyteller, a lot of times that'll come from like being able to just kind of spin something out verbally, which you might notice not every writer is particularly great at. So,
well, I mean, there's the understandable difference between like performing something orally is a performance. It's an oral, like, you know, act. There is more than just like the thing that you're telling. There's your expression, the way you deliver it. It's like telling a joke. It's like stand-up
it's
comedy.
Like being an actor or any other performance art.
So it's not necessarily related to writing in the sense of being a storyteller, right? It's not the pure form, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
that being said, a good storyteller, if they wanted, could probably become a good writer, and vice versa. You would just have to apply yourself to it.
Yeah, if I think about it, a lot of books, like if you listen to audiobooks, they're not told like with this like acting or something. Some people kind of who never like listen to audiobooks, they think like they will listen to it and will have actors, it will have sound effects or something, right? No.
Mm-hmm.
No. Right? Yeah. But if the storytelling is good enough, like I was listening to Stephen King, right? Read on writing, and he's not particularly like, you know, like doing anything special. He's just reading it out loud well, like like comprehensively. Like he's not like doing voices or anything, unless it's like a certain character who is just written that way, and that's all it needs to be a story that's potentially interesting, right? So what I'm saying is, I might not want to be a good writer, but I might want to be a good storyteller. How do you focus on training your storytelling ability? You know, like what makes a story good if you don't care about writing, so to speak?
What I would do then, I would still default to writing, but I would only write in a way that's similar to how people talk. If that makes sense.
I think it does, but
basically, like,
just in case. Yeah.
write it as if you're telling a story out loud, and then look at what you've done. Probably even talk while you write, like you're in a scene of a cheesy movie, and then look for where the issues are, because that's where the advantage of actually writing it down would come from. Is you would see
You can like
have a record
it,
of what you've done. Yeah, you could get a voice recorder too, but then it's harder to like edit out the shit that needs to go and see how it would work if you took it out. You know.
Mm-hmm. So if I would like to try that, right, I would wanna. If I'm telling you a story orally, I would be like, so this guy.
Or
By
the other thing
have
I
you
guess
seen...
you could try, since it's
Mhm.
since the future is now. I don't know if
we could
text-to-speech programs are... Yeah, text-to-speech programs might be good enough now to...
They're not. I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you
Okay.
they're not.
I mean, you know me. Why would I ever talk? Ever. I'm not even talking
there
now.
was one time when you tried Siri or something, and you were impressed by how she could understand what you're saying.
Yeah, when I mumbled.
But that was just one command. If you try to actually write a paragraph that way, it's not gonna work. Definitely not gonna work.
Yeah.
But how about just recording yourself?
Well, that's the thing I said earlier. If you just record yourself instead of writing it down, it might help, but it'll be harder to completely, like, it'll be harder to edit it and then be able to see how that works once you've cleaned it up, you know?
Mm-hmm. You know, when you said that, I don't know if have you seen Civil War, the Marvel movie, Captain America: Civil War?
Nope.
There's a character in there who is beloved by everybody. It's just like this guy who is of Latino Latino type, and he talks really fast with like a kind of like adorable accent, and he has this like thing, which I think I have that problem. Somebody asks him what happened, and instead of telling them what happened, he goes into a story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you see, man, so this happened, like, this guy came in, and he said, what happened? And I said, what happened? And we don't know. Like, and he just goes on with that. Like, hey, isn't that, like, that's one line that everybody liked. Like, look at that girl, ain't she hella fucking fine? Yeah, hella fucking fine. Like, just, it's awesome. That's the one where Stan Lee says that, too. He shows up in the most adorable cameo so far, I think. The most, cute and not offensive. But, that's what I thought about when you said, like, how people tell a story in real life. Like, man, the weirdest shit happened to me today. I was in the bus stop, yeah, right? Well, I guess what you're trying to do, you remove all the things when you make sure the listener is there too. You remove all the tangents, you remove all the, like, speech things that just meant to weave the speech together, like just saying like right or something all the time, and then what's left is that's your story, right? Yeah. But another question is, how do you work on making the story more interesting? Because here's the thing, even still, that's like story delivery, right? Coming up with a story is something abstract. It's like more like an idea. You have to work on an idea then.
Well,
no,
I guess part of the issue is I'm not just because he's King Senpai, but I am kind of in the same camp as Stephen King with the thought that pretty much any idea can make an interesting story. You just have to be able to dig it out, you know?
So, can you really tell a story about something completely boring?
Hell, Mark Twain did that twice. No, well, he did it at least once.
Okay. Which ones?
The Jumping Frog of Calaveras County was this story where he wrote it just
Yeah,
as
I'm not
if it was this old guy just talking shit to some reporter or something. And he's talking about how there was this frog race, and then he fed rocks to all the other dudes' frogs so that they couldn't jump as high, and his frog won or something like that. And it goes on for forever, and then you're like, this story wasn't about anything, but like, you fucking loved it, you know?
Well, the synopsis is kind of intriguing already just because it's baffling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's another question. Okay, more like thinking out loud. So what is an idea of a story, right? It's information.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do with that information? You can choose how to deliver that information, which portions of information to reveal and conceal, right? So would you say storytelling is an art of concealing and revealing information?
Yes.
Because now that I think about it that way, it kind of makes the idea better.
And I think...
And it immediately, gives more ideas on what to do.
And I think this sounds silly, but I think a good way to kind of practice that would be to, like, randomly pick 2 words, and those will make your idea, and it'll be like a qualifier and then a noun. So, like, let's say you had a wheel with a bunch of words on it, or 2 wheels, I should say, or like a wheel and a bag or whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm doing this, but you spin one wheel and you get like flying, and then you pull the noun out of the bag, and it's like flying. Flying
well, something
shoelaces,
that's not
or
normally flying.
Yeah. Or flying grandpa.
A flying stump.
Flying plate of spaghetti, like whatever, or any sort of, like, whatever qualifier, and then your noun, just at random, and then try and make something interesting out of that. Like, I think that would be a pretty good just exercise on trying to find.
Yeah, I kind of see what you're going with.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Like, if you take anything that's just pure abstract what happened, right, and then you try to make it interesting, like, you try to understand how to make it interesting, you try to see which angle to approach it from, that would be more interesting. Like, you can, like you just said, flying grandpa, right? If you just say, there was a cannon in somebody's, like, attic, and they shoot their own grandpa out of there because they were mad at them, that's maybe interesting, right? But if I just tell you that, that's a factoid, right? Like, you're like, oh, okay, again, I guess, right? But if you start with, like, a different side of it, like, you start with the flying grandpa, you're just, like, going down the street, and then you hear, like, a sound from far away. You look up, and there's a flying old man. Like, immediately, intrigue, mystery, right? Like, I think that's where you, like, kind of where you're going with this.
And it's the same, like, a lot of people in general feel like if you don't completely come up with your own idea out of the blue, like, from the ether, like in Stephen King's generation, like, then you cheated or something. Ether. But, like, there's no shame if you're having trouble just coming up with some stupid idea to find a prompt or do that little wheel thing that I just came up with or something, just to get the juices flowing. Like, to expect yourself to just randomly be struck by these moments of inspiration, like, you're doing yourself a disservice.
I really like your exercise idea. I mean, again, it's dangerous to talk about exercises because, you know, exercises are exercises, and that's close to getting the gym rat mentality. But
whenever I do a quote-unquote exercise, I always work on it as if I'm going to... Well, not as if. I always work on it assuming that I'm making something that I am going to send out for publication.
Like something quote-unquote serious, right?
I'm going to make an actual finished product.
Or at least attempt. I guess.
Yeah, well, sometimes shit just ain't happening, but you still have to try.
Yeah, mentality is what is important. to try and learn anything from it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I'm excited. I feel like you should give me prompts and then like the next day I should write you like a little story, or at least like
remember that
tell you a story.
Remember that one website I found that would basically do what I came up with, remember? Or what I suggested? It was a little more substantial. Like it would give you a full prompt instead of just like a qualifier and a noun. But it's boredmuse.com. You don't want to use
boredmuse.com.
You don't want to use it too much, or you'll come off as like a Terry Pratchett or Neil Gaiman ripoff. Because they do tend to be that kind of quirky thing. Like the one it just generated for me was write an alternative universe story about a proud cake decorator who wants to make a baby with a calm domestic servant in an adorable courtroom.
The one I got was write a semi-autobiographical novel about a bossy prostitute who has a one-night stand with a poor servant in an attractive newspaper office. What is it with a poor servant in this website?
Well, that's a lot better than mine. Mine sounds like some fucking Doctor Who fan bullshit. Let's see what this one is. Write a legal thriller about a reflective cosmologist who eats lunch with an awkward commander in a tawdry panic room. See, that would be pretty good.
Here's another thought. I have this a lot when I get prompts, either like from clients or just generated that I see somewhere. The way I imagine it immediately in my head is shitty. Like, I was like, oh, well, it's that prompt. It's the bad one. It's the one that gives you this. I don't like that. And I want to stop for a second and remember, have you ever seen anything by what's his name, the tall guy from Monty Python, the one everybody knows,
John Cleese,
the one who does them? Yes, John Cleese. Have you ever seen his talks on creativity specifically?
No.
See, here's something he talks about. He talks about how there is a very important thing in creativity, and I noticed and thought about it, that it's very, very much true, that the moment you have, like, you get gears rolling for a start to come up with something, to be creative, the first thought is like the obvious thing, but not obvious that's like, well, the good one, you know, like the simple genius one kind of thing. The obvious thing that's like the things you've seen, the things that immediately go into your head, like the ones that you have strong associations with. Like, you know, if I see like something that says like Space Marine, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think like, oh, like all those bad, boring ones, you know, the Gears of War or Warhammer or something. You know, like, and if I would sit down and start drawing immediately, I would do just that and be like, oh, I'm doing this because I have a stupid prompt. Here's my question. John Cleese says that the problem with that is because you act immediately instead of allowing your subconscious to mull over it and think about it and actually be creative. Because if you take your time, like maybe meditate on it, or just like, you know, kind of leave it in the back of your mind cooking, you'll come up with something that uses the same prompt as like just parameters, but instead does not rely on that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that it's the case with me too. Like the moment I see prompts, I have like the obvious thing, but then like if I draw it for like long enough or sketch long enough, I start getting new ideas that are fresh and are not what are the first thoughts that I had, but it always requires more time from like me getting the prompt in my head and actually delivering. Do you think it's the same case with the prompts, the writing prompts? Because the way you interpret it doesn't mean that it has to be a new game and style. Like it might sound quirky, right? It might sound quirky to you because you read them and the first thought is like, well, it sounds like a Gaiman novel or something, right? But no, it doesn't say that it has to be like that. You might write it differently, and it might end up having like a completely different tone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a prompt like that, you might want to see, because I'm a rebel in my heart. My instinct is always like to try and weasel out of the prompt.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very weird feeling when
remember how
when you
I
actually
weaseled
don't
out
have
of the
a
prompt and I came
Yeah.
up with a pretty good story. Our favorite duck.
The duck one?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you see the prompt, and it's not so much you follow the prompt, but more like right in spite of the prompt. You know? And I
got
like
so
it.
mad at that prompt.
I
I was like, "You want a duck?
I'll
Give you a duck."
Yeah, it becomes really surreal and really makes the character happen, and But the thing is, I find that it's also a good exercise for creativity specifically to try. We all know that creativity thrives with parameters, right?
Mm-hmm. Did you die?
You have freedom to do it when you have limits. What?
Whoa! There was a big blurp there. So you're gonna want to repeat what you said.
Okay, so you know how parameters are great for creativity, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have freedom to do everything, you tend to do nothing. However, when you get parameters, suddenly you're interested and you're trying to do as much as possible, because now maybe it's a game. I don't know. Like a game in your brain. I don't know why, but that's the thing. That's how I always work. That's how a lot of people always work. So prompts are great for creativity, and whenever you get like a prompt or like design doc or something, it gives you parameters. But the way I always have it, like I'm always like, well, how far can I push these parameters? Like I don't like try to write exactly what it is. I mean, like paint exactly what it is, but it's always, well, it says that it has to be purple, right? But it doesn't have to be only purple. So like, what else can I do there? And it's not like I'm trying to be like a smartass, but that's how brain starts working. It's you try to disobey it while still obeying it and being all like cool about it, which is a great thing because it makes you create more ideas that are not obvious.
Yeah.
So I guess what we're trying to say here is parameters are great. And if you don't like the parameter, there is a way out of it, man.
And to answer the question that led into all of this, what I'm doing right now is I have 5 manuscripts that I've sent out to magazines, and I'm just waiting for a reply.
Are you anxious for replies? Or are you more like chill? You feel like you've done everything you can and now it's just time for you to relax?
If I hadn't been doing this for a while, I'd be anxious, but now I just kind of... I'm to the point where I just send them out.
Life?
Yeah, I just send them out and then I go about my business until I hear back. I
have a question for you. I was, again, because I was listening to Stephen King's writing, I heard that he has a very kind of specific writing schedule. I don't know. When someone like Stephen King talks about it and lays it out, it sounds like it's very strict, but is it really, in real life, does he actually follow it that close? Or is it just like on average?
I don't know if he follows it that close anymore. He did say ever since his accident, plus just getting older, like, he's slowed down in his writing. Not that you would know, since he still publishes 2 books a year.
Yeah, what the fuck?
As George R.R. Martin said, how the fuck do you write so much?
Is that something he actually said?
Yeah, they were at a writing conference together, and they both had the stage. And then George R.R. Martin asked him, "How the fuck you write so much?" And they just laughed.
He didn't answer.
I don't think he did. But the other thing, other thing, other professional writers have said, if you can be a Stephen King, that's great, but he's kind of an enigma. Most people...
enigma?
Yeah. Most people, if they wrote 10,000 words a day, they would have the issue of burning out very, very quickly. To give you some...
That's a very weird choice of words you had there, an enigma.
But
because, like, you know... Yeah, go on.
Because your favorite Russian pop artist. But to give you an idea...
it's French, man.
Gasp ended up... The rough draft of Gasp ended up being just under 9,000 words. And that was pretty big.
So Stephen King said he writes 10,000 10,000 words a day, right?
10,000 words is about 40 pages.
I barely wrote 4 in like a month. Yeah. And that's not edited. That's like barely first draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, I wasn't writing like every day. I wrote for like 2 evenings. But, oh my god, it's so hard.
Yeah, generally professional writers, unless they're really, really pushing to finish a book for a deadline, they'll do like minimum 1,000 and then let themselves go more, you know?
Alright, then here's the question. Let's try and solve this enigma. What do you think is it about Stephen King that allows him to produce so much? Question 1. Is it something in his process, perhaps?
It could be his process. It could also be... Man, this is going to get out one day. But what if King Senpai is like one of those cases where they're mildly autistic, so they really delve incredibly deep into one thing, you know?
Well... I see what you mean, but from everything I've heard about Stephen King, even like mildly it doesn't feel like autism like with him.
Yeah.
He's like there's nothing like usually with that kind of obsession you end up like being like a high functioner or something like Sherlock or something, right? He's just a normal person. Like he still is a normal person.
Yeah.
I don't
Well, and
see
I have to preface this with, obviously, I don't know the guy. And
yeah,
like, not only do I not know him, I don't have anything even remotely resembling the qualifications to come anywhere near diagnosing something like that. So, like...
I guess, yeah. But,
so I'm just talking...
I mean, it's just a... Yeah, it's just a thought. It's just a thought, a possibility to try and solve this enigma. Here's another thought. The reason why I was burnt out a lot when I was trying to write, or just trying to paint a lot, you know, it's always the thinking. It's always the... Like, I don't get burnt out a lot when I paint mindlessly.
You know what I just thought of? Because King did talk about how he had massive writer's block when he wrote The Stand. But I think part of what might help him do that 10,000 words a day is he seems to literally, to take quite literally, I should say, the thought process or the school of thought that there really can't be any stupid idea. And I mean, if you look at this from the surface, he has how many books about possessed cars now? And Cell was about cell phones turning people into zombies. Like, the dude will just take whatever idea and he'll, like he said in On Writing, he'll let the situation take the characters wherever. They'll get themselves through the situation. So I'm wondering if, like, because he just doesn't give a fuck, like, he can just write that much a day and be like, whatever.
Yeah, see, that's another thought. I was kind of going there, too, with what I was thinking about, because when I am burnt out, it's because I constantly keep thinking and analyzing and assessing what I'm doing, and that what takes the energy out, right? But that, plus the idea that you mentioned that, you know, like, no story is a bad story, it's about how you tell the story, right? So it becomes more of a craft and less about, what about the idea? Is it good? You know, like, like, that Plus, just like I mean, it's obvious that he has a good work ethic, so or discipline.
He's incredibly disciplined.
Yeah,
and
so
to be fair,
that's...
like he said, he began getting serious about writing, which most people do. Most people at their earliest might do like late high school. He started getting serious about writing, like trying to get publications when he was in fucking elementary school, like late elementary school.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
he's had a massive head start on everybody.
Yeah, definitely. But what I was like, apart from, but those are facts. Those are obvious facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is it possible that Stephen King is so prolific because he doesn't burn out? Because his process is minimizing the thinking and maximizing the craft. Like and when I say by thinking, I mean like not the thinking that's like it's more logical thinking. Yeah, less like like when they picture like an artist trying to come up with something and failing and being like, oh, my muse. Like when they like lie down on the sofa.
Mm-hmm.
Like none of that. He takes a story and then he just goes with it.
Yeah, that has to be part of it. Like that alone on its own, that has to be so freeing to just not have an inhibition where you're like, oh, what if people think this idea is stupid? Like, just just do it. Shut up. Do it.
Well, if you don't think about that, then there's only one thing left. Like, well, who cares if this idea is stupid? But is is this the best way I can tell this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? This story. See, now that I think about it, the most like freeing, the most like quick works that I've done are always something that's like spontaneous in terms of idea that I never question. Like I never question like, oh, should I do this? Like it's just like something like a prompt that I got or like a joke. Like a joke that I just decided to go with a little bit too far.
Mm-hmm.
More than just like saying it out loud. I'd like decide to draw it or something, right? Here's an example. Remember our quote-unquote in-joke meme about the Ben apocalypse?
Yeah. I thought you were going to talk about drive it.
Well, I mean, we didn't actually go anywhere with it.
Yeah, I know.
But we could.
It might come one day.
Might, yes.
Maybe.
But, we just still don't have anything like that so far.
Well, if we do anything, I would want to do Spritz first, because it was nice and short. And I think it was genuinely like a pretty sweet little bit of storytelling. Did you read that again? Or did you just
no
look at the
you need to sell it? Yeah, you need to send it to me again. I just remember the hamsters. Anyways, but what I was thinking, the Ben apocalypse started with just like the two words that everybody has this. Everybody has like a joke that they think about and it's funny. Mm-hmm. And because it's funny, they try to think about it more and it becomes bigger. And suddenly everybody is a fucking storyteller, everybody is a writer because they keep coming up with funny shit based on like a prompt. But they don't think about it as storytelling. They don't have any problems with thinking about it or coming up with a story because it's not like, oh, is this good or not? Mm-hmm. They just keep going, you know? And that's probably the state of the mind you want to be in. Less self-assessing, more like,
and
what's the best way to deal with this?
This goes back to another senpai. It's like it's like what R.A. Salvatore told me when I sent him that email, and he was total like sweetheart, like, and actually replied to me. He said, write for your own pleasure and for yourself. That's where the fun is, and it's where your craft is. Worry about who's going to read it and where you're going to publish it later when you're done. Like, so that, what I mean by that is if you're just writing for yourself, then it doesn't matter what other people think. That's where your inhibitions are going to come from, and I think it's inherent to just kind of feel that when you're going into the arts, because the whole point is to try and get other people to see what you've done. But if you just kind of get rid of that for a sec while you're at least in the craft part of your job, like, I think it can do you a lot of favors. That has to come with a caveat of going back to, like, being the guy who does experimental stuff for your own sake. You have to at least know a little bit what you're doing. Like, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and with that said, I think we solved everything. We solved art for everybody.
Yep.
Now everybody's going to be a great artist. Podcast is over.
You're welcome, world.
But yeah, we do we need money? No, just sandwiches. Just you want some treats? Yeah,
dude,
yeah.
If I got at least one free sandwich a day, I'd be fine. Well, one free sandwich and housing. A sandwich is no fun if you don't have a roof.
Yeah, you can just like have that and sandwich a day. I mean, you could also say like utilities, but come on, man, that's just.
Well, I gotta.
Where's the fun
on my own?
Yeah, you got to do something just so you're not relaxed. Just so you have energy, something that pushes you. You know, some fear of failure to keep you on your toes. Well, I think we're done. I think this is the time for us to finish.
Yeah. For this time until next episode. It's been an hour and a half. Yeah. So
goodbye, world.
Do you have any parting words besides that?
King Senpai, listen. If you ever hear this, we'll love you.
Notice me, Senpai.
Notice Ben, please. If you're listening to this, please notice Ben. He needs it more.
There's a hot and fresh meme for you that hasn't grown old at all.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I think it's just funnier depending on who's on the receiving end.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
All right. Good night, guys. Bye.
See ya. Go read my story and buy my sheet music.
And look at my pictures. That's way quicker.
Shut up, man. Okay, we've run into the problem that it's been long enough since we've done a podcast that I don't remember how to stop.
Oh, that happened last time too. Can you just press stop on explicit or whatever?
Well, explicit. Explicit. You see... Okay, so now I've made it big. Oh, boy. Well, it's a good thing we don't care about this anymore.
Integrity.
Yeah. I mean, no one listens anyway. Until they listen to it. Watch us slowly start getting an audience, and then they'll go back and listen to these and be like, man, these guys were full of shit.
Well, we are full of shit.
Yeah, that's the point. Okay. Well, I guess I'll just unclick the YouTube live. Seems